Picture for about an hour.
Which one?
The one you sent with the
The
elephant and the
shamatha
monk.
one.
Shamatha.
Yeah.
7 stages.
Yeah.
And in the end, the
9
elephant is
stages.
white and the monk gets onto its.
Yeah,
it's kind
9
of a,
stages plus 2. When the monk is
I think
flying,
this
those
guy
are
would be
the
a
10th,
lucky guy.
11th stages.
Some.
Lucky is the way to call it, yeah. Also, probably did a lot of work in this lifetime and many, many lifetimes. So, welcome, new and old people. Zoom can hear me okay? Thumbs up or in the chat would be good. Okay, so we'll start as usual with settling our bodies into its natural posture. One with a straight back, shoulders relaxed, muscles relaxed, but your spine very straight, as though somebody were pulling you up by a string attached to the top of your head. Your legs crossed, or if you're on a chair, planted on the floor in front of you. Your hands in your lap or on your knees, face up, and your head gently tilted downwards. And you can put a little smile on your face just to relax all the muscles on your face also. We want to release all the pent up tension of the day, all the little ways our muscles are tightened and holding energy. Just relax each little muscle while keeping your back straight and strong. And we start with our motivation for today. Since it's the day that Martin Luther King died over 50 years ago, we are here to remember him, to remember his legacy, his work, the Bodhisattva values he embodied, and to maybe learn how we can embody them ourselves in order to do the work of a Bodhisattva in this life, even before attaining enlightenment or full awakening. We can still embody those values and impact the world around us. And so we set our intention for today to reflect on our own actions as we learn about Martin Luther King and Thich Nhat Hanh, and see how we can improve ourselves to benefit ourselves, to further ourselves on the path of awakening, and to benefit those around us, and thus ultimately all sentient beings. In our own little ways. Now we'll do a short breath awareness meditation, just to bring our minds here to the present moment, into focus, and let go of our busy days and our busy evenings ahead. So in this practice, shamatha, we will watch our breath. We'll use our breath as the object of our meditation. And by nature of focusing on our breath, we just allow naturally all other thoughts and wanderings of the mind to just fall away on their own. You can watch the breath either at the tip of your nostrils as it comes in and out, or down in your belly, your abdomen. You can feel your belly move in and out, whichever feels more comfortable to you. For a couple minutes, we'll just try to follow our breath. And if the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. Breath is always there. Notice your mind has wandered from the breath. Very gently release the thought and return to the breath. We don't need to push it away or force it away. Just very gently return back to the breath, which never left. Whenever you feel ready, gently become aware of your surroundings, the sounds around you, any voices you hear, any smells. Become aware of your sensory environment. And as you return back to the space around you, see if you can bring that awareness, that presentness, that focus. See if you can carry it with you as you very gently open your eyes again. So, today, as I mentioned, is the day Martin Luther King Jr. died, was shot in 1968, which if somebody is really fast in math is like 50, 54 years ago. 54 years ago. And so we want to spend this day in many centers around the world and sanghas around the world have started doing this now as we recognize Martin Luther King's compassion and action and compassionate action and Bodhisattva values. So I have, let's see how we can do this. So there are some photos I want to share, and that's why I've switched off my video, because I'm just going to show these photos to the participants here also for those on Zoom. So I want to start by, is this okay for everyone? Should I tilt it more? Okay. So I want to start by this photo of Martin Luther King and Thich Nhat Hanh, and just sharing about this meeting that is not very well known of because they didn't know each other for very long because Martin Luther King got shot soon after they met. But basically they met in, so first Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a letter to Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement and just encouraging him, giving his words of support while he was still in Vietnam doing his work. And then in 1966, once Thich Nhat Hanh got exiled and was in the US, that's when they met for the first time. And this is a picture of that time. And when they met, they really connected on a very deep level, and they shared about their own movements. Thich Nhat Hanh was fighting the Vietnam War, not fighting as in a soldier, but fighting through nonviolent movement, through healing the wounded, through supporting, feeding the hungry, and protesting in a nonviolent way through mindfulness walking and other things. So while he was fighting that in Vietnam, Martin Luther King, of course, was fighting for Black rights and equality and the abolishment of equality of Black people in America for the civil rights movement. And so when they met, they really connected on a lot of fronts. Of Martin Luther King, of course, had been very inspired by Gandhi and nonviolence, and Thich Nhat Hanh was, of course, a pioneer of the nonviolent movement. And so they talked about nonviolent movement. They talked about compassionate action, equality, and various other things, which we'll talk about through the session. So one thing, I'll read it out loud. Thich Nhat Hanh told Martin Luther King when he met him, he said, then they met a second time in 1968 at a conference, and that was when they started to sort of come up with some new ideas of how they can further their movement. But soon after that, Martin Luther King got shot. But Thich Nhat Hanh did share these words with Martin Luther King, which he was very glad he did before he got shot. He said, "Martin, you know something? In Vietnam, they call you a Bodhisattva, an enlightened being trying to," I can't read upside down. "Trying to awaken other living beings and help them go in their direction of compassion and understanding." So that's quite a big statement, because like we know Martin Luther King as, his "I Have a Dream" speech. We know him as a civil rights activist. We know him for nonviolence movement even. But a being who can help others moving in the direction of compassion, understanding, that is what a bodhisattva is. And Thich Nhat Hanh is saying that, in Vietnam, they're calling him this. And so anyway, I'll just read what was in the bottom later. This is just what I just told you, that Thich Nhat Hanh later was very grateful that he got to share these words with Martin Luther King before he died. So this is a very powerful statement, and I want to investigate and go into what made Martin Luther King a bodhisattva. And so I'll start with this quote. I'll read it out loud. This is a quote by Martin Luther King that he is part of a sermon he gave when he was at the age of 25. So it goes, "I'm sure that many of you have had the experience of dealing with thermometers and thermostats. The thermometer records the temperature. If it is 70 or 80 degrees, it registers that, and that is all. On the other hand, the thermostat changes the temperature. If it is too cool in the house, you simply push up the thermostat a little bit, and it makes it warmer. And so the Christian is called upon not to be like the thermometer, conforming to the temperature of his society, but he must be like the thermostat, serving to transform the temperature of his society." So that was a part of a sermon he gave in 1954, when, again, he was 25 years old. So I'm curious what impression that leaves on you all. What are your first thoughts? Because I don't want to hear myself talk. I'm curious what your thoughts are based on that quote, if you have any thoughts. Not to be like a thermometer, conforming to the temperature of his society, but he must be like the thermostat, serving to transform the temperature of the society.
It means be a catalyst to create an environment where people start adopting and conforming into the movement of enlightenment. And not be a thermometer that blends into the culture which is around. That's what my understanding.
Interesting,
Yeah.
Also, we can also compare it with being very rigid. Thermometer is very rigid, and on the other hand, thermostat is very open. You adjust yourself, you make changes, you balance out things. But thermometer, you cannot do that. In that sense, as an individual, maybe you can be more like.
Yeah, and I'd say a thermostat's grounded, and I feel like, especially now in these last couple of years, when we haven't had these opportunities to ground ourselves together as a community, it's very important to come back together and get that momentum going, because doing it alone just feels almost hopeless right now.
Yeah. So for those on Zoom, if you couldn't hear, people are saying, grounded, the Dharma says grounded, flexible, open, enlightened action. And I see, one second, somebody raised their hand. Yeah, Avi, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like not waiting, leaving everything, saying that it's God's will, but actually acting to fix some problematic thing.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
So it's not leaving everything passively, saying that it's God's will and that's why it's happening, but taking action and actively trying to correct a wrongdoing.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to raise the sound. Okay, let's be better. Yeah, thank you, Avik. Okay, so I'm going to share another quote that is one that a lot of us are familiar with. It's one of Martin Luther King's most famous quotes. It goes, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And so this is a quote that many of us, especially in the US, have heard before. This is one of his most famous quotes. I believe it's from the "I Have a Dream" speech. And but we can see that since we're looking at it from a Buddhist perspective, that is essentially a statement on interdependence, on the interconnectedness of all beings. He's saying that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment. And so he's essentially referring to that if we are doing injustice to one, it's going to affect all of us. It is oppression to all. It is going to harm in one way or another all of us on a very deep level or an indirect level. And so I think that's a very powerful line. I want to also share, so even deeper than that, he goes even deeper. So I want to share a line from the Dhammapada, which is a collection of verses from the Buddha, quotes and verses from the Buddha, which is from the original scriptures from the Theravada tradition, but it's one of the most popularly read scriptures of Buddhism. It's a little tiny collection. I don't know if any of you have read it or read verses of it, excerpts, the Dhammapada. We might have a little copy here. It's either a little book or sometimes it comes in a bigger book, but it's basically just snippets of the Buddha's words and his wisdom. It's a very, it's a very small book. Yeah. And so this line goes, "In this world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate," which we all sort of know or have heard. It's quite a introductory concept. If we've attended Buddhist teachings, we don't want to fight fire with fire. Only water can put out fire, right? But interestingly, thousands of years later, Martin Luther King sort of embodied and spoke about the same principle. His line goes, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And so in this, I think Martin Luther King is going even deeper now than interdependence. He's going to dependent origination, which is a similar concept, but essentially saying that everything that exists in our world now is coming from a prior cause. It's coming from a prior origin. And so he's saying that if you are going to start fighting back the fire with fire, that's going to cause even more fire. That cannot create something else out of that. That is what the origin is, and so that's what the result is going to be. And this quote is even more powerful and explanatory of that. He says, "We must work passionately and unrelentingly for the goal of freedom. But we must be sure that our hands are clean in the struggle. We must never struggle with falsehood, hate, or malice. we must never become bitter. So I really like that line. We must be sure that our hands are clean in the struggle, so that we do not create a cause for more dirt to flood into the world. So yeah, that's something that is a very core Buddhist concept, and something that even in our meditations on compassion or on loving kindness or anything that we meditate on, it's always an important value to go back to is dependent origination and or interdependence and interconnectedness, that we are, even as our motivation, the motivation that we just did in our meditation where we said, we are doing this practice for ourselves, but also for all beings, because when we are working on ourselves and meditating, it is trickling out to all beings, and we are all beings. We will be everyone's mother. We have been everyone's mother. We have been everyone's child. And so this idea of, even though he's not necessarily talking about rebirth or an infinite continuum or beyond this life, even just within this life, he is really getting at this idea of interdependence. Another aspect of Buddhism that he talks about a lot is embodied by this quote. It goes, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of education." So intelligence and character, to me, that resembles and symbolizes the two wings of the bird that we talk about in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, and I think Geshe Dorje Damdala is the one whom I heard describe it like this, or it might have been somebody else, but basically it is described as two wings of a bird, which is wisdom and compassion. And a bird can't fly with just one of those wings. It needs both its wings to fly. And so, and the body of the bird is self-grasping ignorance. But the two wings that stabilize it are wisdom and compassion. So we cultivate compassion, but at the same time also cultivating wisdom of emptiness, wisdom of these philosophical ideas that we study. So we need both. We need the heart and the mind. We need the heart wisdom and the mind wisdom. And so his statement on education, this famous statement of his, is intelligence plus character, that to think intensively means like with the heart, and also to think critically. And so he really starts to, in his life, he starts to really question the world around him, which is what makes him such a powerful figure, is because he starts questioning things. We don't always question the world around us. We sort of go with the flow, and we, if somebody's angry at us, we take it. Sometimes we don't. If we are upset, we let ourselves be upset. If we have to deal with an angry landlady, we just deal with it. If there are problems in the world, if there's injustice, it's very difficult, and usually we don't think about how we can change it. Okay, we have Modi as the prime minister, like we just continue living our lives. Although there's so much injustice being perpetuated by him, we just keep living our lives. And so his asking questions is a very powerful thing. And that's where knowledge, that's where wisdom comes from, is from asking questions. And the Buddha himself says, don't just take what I'm telling you, ask questions, investigate on your own, practice on your own, and see for yourself. So another quote, you see, my friends, you begin to ask the questions, who owns the oil? You begin to ask the question, who owns the iron ore? You begin to ask the question, why is it that people have to pay water bills in a world that is 2/3 water? So all these questions that, are to really make you critique the world, that thinking critically that he's talking about, which is really important both in the world and in our spiritual practice, because Geshe-la, the teaching he just gave here last Tuesday, he says you cannot turn a blind eye to reality. We have to face reality as it is, and then take our decisions from that wisdom perspective with compassion. So that was the wisdom perspective. And then the compassion perspective, Martin Luther King also talks about. He's got everything. He hits all the points. So with compassion, this is another well-known quote, or one of his more famous quotes. It goes, "True compassion is more than just flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring." So this is true compassion that he's talking about. Empathy would be sort of seeing the beggar, understanding, his suffering, and flinging the coin, as he says. But compassion is, assisting the beggar in what way you can, and then also seeing that why is the beggar here on the street? Where is it coming from? And tracing it back and fighting the root of it. And this is something that this is related to Buddhism in the sense of the 4 generosities, which are there are 4 sort of levels or forms of generosity, going from the first one being feeding and clothing people, food, clothes, nourishment, these material things that we can give to people and we can offer to people. And then the 4th one being the generosity of the Dharma, of teaching the Dharma, sharing the Dharma with others. And so this sort of, he's moving from the first towards the 4th, the one that is deeper, the one that really changes a system, that changes us from a much deeper level. So I wanted to also share this another strong overlap, which is with this book, The Way of the Bodhisattva, which many of you may have heard before. The Bodhisattva, I can't say it. Yes, thank you. And so in this book, Shantideva talks about, in the end, he gives 2 meditations to do to incorporate and to really embody everything that he talks about in the book, his 9 chapters. And so the 2 meditations are exchanging self and other and equalizing self and other. And the one exchanging self and other is something that we may have heard of before, Tonglen meditation, or we may have practiced it before. And that's the more commonly practiced one. But equalizing self and other is what is said is an even deeper practice, because it really, exchanging self and other, Tonglen, is a practice that is absolutely very powerful, but without the wisdom of emptiness, it can invoke our ego in a little sense, because we see it as, oh, I am helping this person, or it can turn into pity easily, or just result in empathy instead of a deeper compassion if it's not with the wisdom of emptiness. And so equalizing self and other is said to be a really powerful practice, because you're bringing yourself to the level of everyone, as we are equal. And as Martin Luther King says, all men are created equal. And so it's not that I'm inferior to you, it's not that I'm superior to you, we are all equal. And so he says we must learn to live together as brothers, or perish together as fools. That's another powerful quote of his. So I want to now that we've like talked about different ways that Martin Luther King embodies Bodhisattva values, I want to bring it back to that first picture and that meeting of Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King. And so this is something I sort of already talked about, but this is just a photo showing the struggle of the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement happening simultaneously. And so basically, okay. So basically, what that means, this, if Martin Luther King, if we can see him as an embodiment of a bodhisattva, we can also look at how his action, sorry, I'm a little stuck here, how his actions resemble Thich Nhat Hanh's, Thich Nhat Hanh's, what he coined as engaged Buddhism. And that's sort of the final thing I wanted to talk about, is this idea of engaged Buddhism, which is, again, a term that Thich Nhat Hanh coined during his fight against the Vietnam War. He was living at a monastery at the time, and when the war broke out and villages around him were starting to be burned down, and everything as he knew it, people were being shot on the streets, civilians, and really ugly stuff. And so him and the other monks were wondering like what they should do. Should they continue staying at the monastery and pray and practice, or should they try to go out and help people? And they decided, with Thich Nhat Hanh as their leader, to go out and help the wounded. They brought medical equipment, and they went from person to person to person, from hospital camp to hospital camp, from ward to ward, healing the wounded. They took donations, they collected donations, they did mindfulness walks, awareness walks, to raise, of just walking mindfully to raise awareness for about the war and to protest the war. And so through all of this, the term was coined engaged Buddhism, and he has a book about it. It's called Good Citizens, and it's a really powerful book, because it's talking about how we can be engaged citizens through our spiritual practice. And so he really started this movement of engaged Buddhism. And when he met Martin Luther King, and he told Martin Luther King, this is, you are essentially a bodhisattva. You are not just saying these words, but you are acting on these words. You are compassion in action, which is what Avalokiteshvara is, compassion in action. You can see, let's see here, Avalokiteshvara always has his foot on the, let's see, okay, it's a little hidden, but Avalokiteshvara always has one foot down like this. And it's because he's always ready to jump into action, to jump to help people. So he always has one foot ready to move. And so, Martin Luther King really embodies this engaged Buddhism and compassion in action, which I think is a really important reason we should remember him on this day. So a quote that embodies that, which is again a well-known quote: "Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." And so that's in a sense essentially saying we must be active. We can't be passive. We can pray, we can hope, we can and we must cultivate our own minds. Oops. Hello. And so, but we also can take action in the world around us. And, we don't have to just simply, we don't have to attain awakening before we can engage with the world. We can use our practice to really slowly change the world around us. So yeah, then from there, even Martin Luther King started talking out about and against the Vietnam War. In those last 2-3 years of his life, he gave a few different speeches against the Vietnam War. He came out openly, although his advisors told him not to, and that this is really dangerous right now to pick a side on the war, but especially in America. But he was really inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh, and Thich Nhat Hanh was really inspired by him. This is the quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. He said, "The moment I met Martin Luther King Jr., I knew I was in the presence of a holy person, not just for his good work, but his very being was a source of great inspiration to me." And so from there, when they met that second time in 1968 before Martin Luther King got shot, one of the things they talked about, one of the new ideas that they birthed together was the idea of the beloved community, which is a coin that Martin Luther King had been talking about for a while, and Thich Nhat Hanh was really inspired by that. This idea of the beloved community, which is essentially a community of people where everybody is supported by each other. Nobody goes hungry. Nobody doesn't have a bed to sleep on. So it is an interdependent and interconnected and supported community, which if we know Plum Village is very much like that. And through this idea, although Martin Luther King died soon after, Thich Nhat Hanh was even more so inspired. It just redoubled his motivation and desire to really fulfill this dream of Martin Luther King. And so after that, he created this a center in the US in Mississippi called the Magnolia Grove Meditation Practice Center. And this is a picture of the center. And you can see there are 2 statues here. It's of Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King, which is a really beautiful picture. And this is like the opening of the center. And yeah, it's a community like Plum Village. Thich Nhat Hanh has 3 different centers in the US, which he created after that. And this is one of them. And so, yeah, it was, and it says in the bottom, which you can't see, but it's to commemorate the meeting and, the camaraderie of these 2 Bodhisattvas. And so, yeah, that is all about, that's all the pictures I want to show. But I want to also, I want to do a quick meditation that is just to contemplate on everything that we've just learned about Martin Luther King, and then to do a recitation of the compassion mantra, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, or Om Mani Padme Hum in Tibetan. And we actually have a request from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and I'll announce it in the WhatsApp groups, but we've been asked, all the FPMT centers have been asked to recite the compassion mantra and the Tara mantra as many times as we wish, and each center is to report the number. So its members can report the number to us, and we'll report the number every month to Lama Zopa Rinpoche. For some health issue he's experiencing, it is for that. And so we'll do that, and then we'll end with a little prayer and dedication. So If you don't know the mantra, that's totally fine. You can just listen, or if you start to catch on, it's just that phrase repeated over and over, then you can start chanting along. So, okay, so this is the meditation.
Greetings, everyone. This is Jason Harrell. I'm inviting you to take a moment and come with me now on a journey of the heart. This meditation moment is dedicated to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King. So how do we have a mindful meditation moment on the civil rights leader and pastor, Dr. Martin Luther King? As I prepared for this moment, I realized that it wasn't any different than meditating on the thoughts and wisdom of Gandhi, Marcus Aurelius, Krishna, or Christ. For a moment, let's just take a pause to meditate on Dr. King's thoughts and wisdom. We have to think about what he said, what he believed to be true, and how his life was a reflection of his beliefs. What did he believe in so much that he was willing to die for? In the summer of 1967, 2 wars were occurring, one foreign, Vietnam, and one domestic, civil rights. The Beatles produced a song, All You Need Is Love, and Dr. King published a speech, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? The Beatles song was to promote love and peace, a message anyone could easily understand and support in light of the Vietnam War. It was a feel-good song. You feel you've ever heard this song before? Well, the melody comes to your head quickly, then it goes. Dr. King's speech and publication was deeper. It requires to think and feel differently than a catchy tune about the universal concept of love. It transcends the thought of love into a space where love and hate are face to face. Stop for a moment and feel the hot breath of hate and hurt on your face. And now allow yourself to recall a moment of love and let your humanity and love for all beings be restored as it was in the beginning of time. Quiet your hearts again for a moment and let these words from Dr. King penetrate your soul. Darkness cannot put out darkness. Only light can do that. And I say to you, I have decided to stick with love, for I know that love is ultimately the only answer to mankind's problem, and I'm going to talk about it everywhere I go. I know it isn't popular to talk about it in some circles today, and I'm not talking about emotional posh when I talk about love. I'm talking about a strong, demanding love. For I have seen too much hate. Every time I see hate, I know it does something to people's faces and personalities. And I say to myself, that hate is too great a burden to bear. I have decided to love. If you are seeking the highest good, I think you can find it through love. These words from Dr. King are deeper than any song. We have all experienced hate and hurt in our lives, and certainly some more than others. It unsettles us. Our skin gets a little thicker each time, but the phases of hate can often return. But we are not powerless in the face of hurt or hate. We have a choice of response. And as Dr. King stated, I have decided to love. He made a choice on how he was going to respond to hate with love. Yes, Dr. King was a living example that love conquers all. Open up your heart today and feel the hurt and hate released from your soul, and feel it being replenished by the power of love. a strong, demanding love. So thank you, Dr. King, for leading the way and being a living example of what love looks like.
So you can keep your eyes closed if you want, and we will go into the mantra. And just a word on the mantra. We don't. It's not just some words that mean something, but it's really important to visualize as we chant this mantra, to visualize how we can embody compassion, how we can really embody compassion in our daily lives and with those around us as we chant this mantra. And we can contemplate on all the quotes you just heard by Martin Luther King and Thich Nhat Hanh, and really visualize ourselves as embodying those things, those qualities. So we'll chant it along with this song for a few minutes. And you can keep your eyes closed still if you wish. End with a short prayer and wish. Aware of the suffering caused by racial, systemic, and social inequities, we commit ourselves individually and as a community to understanding the roots of these inequities and to transforming the suffering into compassion, understanding, and love in action. As a global community of practitioners, we are aware of the disproportionate racial violence and oppression committed by institutions and by individuals, whether consciously or unconsciously. We know that individually and as a community, looking deeply, we can engage the collective wisdom and energy of the Sangha to heal, grounded in non-discrimination, non-harming, and non-self as our foundation. So as we return back to our daily lives, back to the world around us, engaging with friends, strangers, difficult people, families, colleagues, we can try to carry these values, this Bodhisattva vow essentially, with us into the world. Even if we fail sometimes, even if we let our emotions, our reactions take over, that's okay. We are on the path, and as long as we keep remembering, even just remembering, just recalling this vow, these values, every day we are planting seeds in our mind. May we continue to reflect on these concepts and on these values and embody them for the benefit of all beings. Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you. And yeah, if anybody, I don't want to, I'm at least in a very peaceful state. So if people want to sit here, that's okay. If you want to have tea in the back, there's tea in the back. Yeah, we have a live, if anybody's here for the first time, I don't know, maybe you were here before, but there's a library you can use and check out books from. And yeah, so thank you. Mm-hmm.